I drove 6 hours to the lake house. I paid for it. It was empty. Jake said, "We did it last week, sis. No apology, just photos." I stayed silent. But the police knocked on their door next. I pulled up to the lake house just as the sun dipped below the trees, casting long shadows over the gravel drive. My old pickup groaned to a stop, tires crunching, and I sat there a moment, hands still on the wheel, my chest tight with something like hope. 6 months I planned this, our first real family vacation in years, a week at Lakeview Retreat, a cedar cabin with a wraparound porch and a dock I'd pictured us all laughing on. I'd worked doubles at the warehouse, skipped lunches, poured every extra dime into the $2,800 deposit. The grill I'd shipped ahead sat unopened by the steps, its box still taped shut. No smoke, no sizzle, no voices spilling out the open windows. Just silence, thick and wrong. I stepped out, boots scuffing the dirt, and checked my phone. The text glowed back at me. Sunday, 6 o'clock p.m., Lakeview Retreat. See you there. I'd sent it to the family group chat 3 weeks ago, and Jake had replied, "And can't wait, sis." I triple-checked it last night, heart pounding with dumb excitement. Now at 6:03, the place was a ghost town. No cars, no lights, just the wind rustling the pines. My throat tightened. I dialed Jake, the ring loud in the quiet. He picked up on the second buzz, voice too bright like he'd rehearsed it. "Oh man, we did it last week. Thought you couldn't make it. We've got some pics for you, though. Pics." My stomach lurched, a cold fist twisting inside me. I'd paid for this. Every plank of that dock, every bed they'd slept in, and they'd gone without me. "Last week?" I croaked. But he just laughed, light and careless. "Yeah, it was a blast. Chill. We'll catch you up." I hung up, staring at the dark windows, my breath fogging in the October air. They hadn't forgotten. They'd chosen this. And I'd been left holding nothing but an empty house. I sank onto the cold porch steps of the lake house, the rough wood biting through my jeans, and let the silence settle over me like a shroud. My hands rested on my knees, heavy, useless, as the night crept in. Stars pricking the sky one by one. I didn't cry. I couldn't. But my mind churned, dragging me back through years I tried to bury. Jake's face flickered there first, all crooked grin and easy charm. The brother I'd spent my life propping up. When we were kids, he'd swipe candy from the corner store, get caught, and I'd be the one slipping the clerk a crumpled $5 from my paper route cash. Mom's voice in my ear. "He's fragile. You're strong. Help him." I did. Always. By high school, it wasn't candy anymore. It was bail money. He'd racked up $800 in poker debts by 17, grinning at me over a busted lip when I handed over my savings from bagging groceries. "You're the best, sis," he'd said, like that made it okay. I'd nodded, proud to be the rock, even when it left me hollowed out. Then last year, I caught him red-handed. $500 charged to my credit card for some flashy gaming console. I confronted him, voice shaking, and he shrugged. "A glitch, sis. Chill," while Mom waved it off. "He's just impulsive, you know." I let it slide, because arguing felt like punching fog. Family doesn't keep score, right? That's what they drilled into me. But it wasn't just Jake. Mom leaned on me too, her size a currency I paid in guilt. 2 winters ago, she called, frantic. "The heat's out, and Dad's too proud to fix it." I wired town 200 for a new furnace. My rent was late that month because of it. She never said thanks. Just, "Jake's struggling again. Can you spare a little more?" Dad was quieter, but his silence cut deeper. I'd show up with groceries when their fridge was bare, and he'd grunt, eyes on the TV, like I was the delivery girl, not his daughter. The worst came last Thanksgiving. I'd driven 3 hours with a turkey I'd roasted myself, hands still greasy from the oven. They were in the den, laughing over wine I'd brought the month before. I lingered by the doorway unnoticed, catching Jake's voice. "She's got no life, just a paycheck with legs." Mom chuckled, soft and sharp. "Well, she's good for something." Dad snorted, didn't argue. I stood there, the tray trembling in my grip, heat climbing my neck. I set the turkey down and left without a word, their laughter trailing me to the car. I told myself it was just talk, just a bad night. Love meant taking it, didn't it? Now, on this porch, that lie unraveled. The lake house wasn't a fluke. It was a spotlight on the truth I'd dodged for years. I'd built their world, brick by brick. Jake's rent when he got evicted, Mom's car repairs, Dad's fishing gear he forgot to pay me back for. I thought it was duty, proof I belonged. But belonging went one way. They took. I gave. And when it came time to sit at the table I'd set, they locked the door. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A notification from the bank app, one I hadn't checked yet. I ignored it, staring at the grill box instead, its pristine edges mocking me. I sent it 2 weeks ago, picturing Dad flipping burgers, Jake cracking beers, Mom fussing over plates. A family moment I bought, but wouldn't live. I thought of the overtime nights, stacking boxes till my back screamed, mornings with black coffee instead of breakfast, to save $1, all for this cabin. This week. They'd stolen. My breath hitched, not from sadness, but from something hotter, sharper. I'd been their anchor, their ATM, their fool. And they'd left me here, alone, with nothing but a text promising pictures, like I was some distant relative they'd humor with scraps. I pressed my palms into my eyes, the pressure grounding me. This wasn't the first time they'd cut me out, but it was the first time I saw it clear. They didn't forget me by accident. They chose it, every time. My hands dropped, and I stood, the chill seeping into my bones. The lake stretched dark and still beyond the trees, reflecting a sky I couldn't reach. I'd spent years proving I was worth their love, handing over pieces of myself, money, time, pride, until I was threadbare. But love shouldn't leave you bleeding. I turned back to my truck, the keys cold in my fist. They'd had their week, their laughs, their fish. Tomorrow I'd have mine. Not revenge. Not yet. But a kind reckoning. I wasn't their shadow anymore. I was done building homes they'd never let me live in. I drove back from the lake house that night, the empty cabin shrinking in my rearview mirror, its dark silhouette swallowed by the pines. The highway stretched ahead, a gray ribbon under a moonless sky, and I gripped the wheel until my knuckles ached. Rage simmered low in my gut. Not loud, not yet, but steady, like a coal that wouldn't cool. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat, Jake's name lighting up the screen. I let it ring out, then swiped to his text. Sis, chill. We'll send you some fish we caught. Epic week. And fish. Like I was a stray they toss a bone to. I didn't answer. The words looped in my head. Epic week. And I pictured them. Jake reeling in a bass, Mom snapping photos, Dad cracking a beer I'd paid for, all while I'd been stacking boxes, counting days, dreaming of a dock I'd never stand on. Back at my apartment, I dropped my keys on the counter and sank into the couch, the springs creaking under me. The quiet was suffocating, but I couldn't sleep, not with that heat building inside. I grabbed my laptop, more out of habit than intent, and opened my bank app to check my balance. That's when I saw it. A Chatham County charge posted yesterday. At Lakeview Boat Rentals. My breath caught. I hadn't rented a damn thing. I'd been at work when that transaction hit. The date matched their trip, though, last week, when they'd been living it up without me. My cursor hovered over the details, and there it was. Authorized by a card in my name. The one Jake knew the number to. From that glitch last year. He hadn't just excluded me. He'd stolen from me. Again. And this time, it wasn't a mistake. I slammed the laptop shut, my pulse hammering in my ears. I saw red, his smug grin, his careless shrug, the way he'd played me for years while I ate the cost. I grabbed my phone and called Mom, my voice tight as wire. Where's Jake? She paused, then sighed. That familiar tone she used to smooth things over. Oh, honey, he's at home. What's wrong? I didn't mince words. He used my card for a boat rental, $1,200 last week. Another pause, longer this time. Then, he didn't mean it. You know how he gets. He just wanted to make it special for us. Special. The word landed like a slap. For who? I snapped. Not me. I wasn't there. She started again. He thought, but I cut her off. He thought I'd pay for it anyway, like always. I hung up before she could spin it further, my hand trembling as I set the phone down. I paced the room, the cheap carpet scuffing under my boots. It wasn't just the money, though $200 was half my rent, a hit I'd feel for months. It was the intent. He'd planned it. Typed my numbers into that machine, knowing I'd be none the wiser. Laughing with them on a boat I'd never ride. And Mom defending him like it was nothing. Like I was the one overreacting. I stopped by the window, staring at the streetlights flickering below, and something clicked. Sharp. Final. This wasn't a slip-up or a misunderstanding. They'd taken my trust, my work, my place in this family, and turned it into their playground. I'd been their safety net so long they didn't even see me falling. I sat back down, slower this time, and pulled out my phone again. Not to call. To think. My thumb hovered over Jake's text, that stupid fish offer, and I deleted it. Then I opened my bank app again, screenshotted the charge, and saved it. Evidence. My mind raced, piecing it together. The lake house, the boat, the years of help that never came back. I'd been their fool, but not anymore. Tomorrow, I'd stop playing the part they'd cast me in. Reliable, invisible, expendable. They'd had their fun, left me with the bill, and assumed I'd take it like I always did. But this time I wouldn't bend. I'd break something. Their illusion, their hold, their game. I leaned back, the couch creaking again, and stared at the ceiling. The rage wasn't loud anymore. It was cold, deliberate. A blade I'd sharpen overnight. They thought they could keep me in the dark, but I'd been watching too long. Tomorrow I'd step into the light and make them see me. Not as their bank, not as their shadow, but as the one they'd pushed too far. This wasn't over. It was just starting. I pulled into Mom and Dad's driveway the next evening, the engine ticking as it cooled, a thick folder tucked under my arm. The house glowed warm through the windows, a lie of a home I'd never really belonged to. I hadn't slept, spent the night printing bank statements, receipts, every trace of what I'd given them. My boots hit the porch with purpose, and I didn't knock. I just walked in. They were in the living room. Jake sprawled on the couch, scrolling his phone, Mom fussing with a tray of cookies, Dad hunched in his armchair, a baseball game flickering on TV. They looked up startled, and I didn't wait for their hellos. I dropped the folder on the coffee table with a thud. "This," I said, voice flat, "is what I've paid for you." Jake smirked, not even sitting up. "What's this? Your diary?" I ignored him. Flipped the folder open. Pages fanned out. $2,800 for the lake house, $1,200 for the boat rental, $800 for his old gambling debt, $200 for Mom's furnace. "The lake house you enjoyed without me," I said, pointing. "The boat you rented on my card. Years of help you never paid back. I'm done." Mom's hands froze mid-fuss, her mouth parting. "Honey, we're family. Why make it ugly?" Jake snorted. "You're so dramatic, sis. It's not like we held a gun to your head." I locked eyes with him. "No, you just took what I gave, and laughed when I wasn't looking." Dad muted the TV, frowning. "What's this about a boat?" I slid the screenshot across the table. 10-200, Lakeview Boat Rentals. Authorized last week. Jake used my card again, while you were all out there fishing. Jake's smirk faltered, just for a second. Then he shrugged. "It was for the family. You'd have done it anyway." I leaned in, voice low. "I reported it as fraud this morning. Cops are digging into it." The room went still. Jake's phone slipped to the cushion. Mom's tray clattered to the floor. Dad stood, face reddening. "You'd turn on your own brother over this?" "He turned on me first," I shot back. "Stole from me. Planned it. Then left me out of a trip I paid for. You all did." Mom stepped forward, hands wringing. "We didn't mean to hurt you. Jake said you were busy, that's all." I almost laughed, dry, bitter. "Busy? I was working overtime for that cabin. You knew that." Jake rolled his eyes. "Get over it, Lisa. It's not a big deal." That's when I pulled the second punch. "It's a big deal when it's theft. The bank's got your name on it now. You're not sliding out of this one." The air shifted, heavy with their panic. Mom's voice cracked. "You can't do this. We'll fix it." I shook my head. "You don't get it. I'm not here to negotiate. I'm here to end it." Dad pointed a finger at me. "You're tearing us apart over money." I met his glare. "No, you tore us apart when you let him use me like a damn ATM and called it family." Silence stretched, taut and electric, until Aunt Lisa spoke from the corner. She'd been there the whole time, sipping tea, unnoticed, until now. "I saw it," she said softly. "Jake planned the boat thing, said you'd never notice the charge, bragged about it at the lake. I should have warned you." Her words hit like a jolt. Jake's head snapped toward her. "What the hell, Lisa?" She didn't flinch. "It's true. They joked you'd just pay it off, like always." I stayed quiet too long. Mom stared at her, then at me, eyes wide. Dad sank back into his chair, deflated. Jake lunged for an excuse. "She's lying. I didn't—" But I cut him off. "Save it. She's not the one on a bank record." I stepped back, folding my arms. "You thought I'd keep taking it. You were wrong." Mom reached for me, pleading. "Let's talk this out, please." I shook my head again. "Talking's done. You'll hear from the cops next." I turned for the door, the folder still splayed on the table, a map of their greed. I'd finally stopped navigating. Aunt Lisa's voice followed me, quiet but firm. "You didn't deserve this." I paused, just a beat, and nodded. She was right. I didn't. They'd built their good times on my back. But I wasn't carrying them anymore. The screen door slapped shut behind me. their stunned faces fading into the night. I'd lit the fuse. Now I'd watch it burn. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 7:32, a local number I didn't recognize. I picked up, still groggy from a night of fractured sleep. "This is Officer Daniels," a calm voice said. "We're following up on your fraud report. $12,200 from Lakeview Boat Rentals. We've got texts from your brother to a friend. Use her card. She's a sucker. We're heading to your parents' place today for statements." I sat up, the weight of it sinking in. "Do I need to be there?" I asked. "No, ma'am," he replied. "You've given us enough. We'll handle it." I thanked him and hung up, the silence in my apartment feeling different, less oppressive, more like a shield. They'd face the mess they'd made, and for once, I wouldn't be the one cleaning it up. I was pouring coffee when another blow landed. My email pinged, a notification from a pawnshop app I'd linked to years ago. It was tied to my old guitar, a beat-up acoustic Grandpa had left me. I'd lost it months ago, assumed it was misplaced in a move. The listing stared back. Vintage Martin, $300. Sold. 2 weeks before the lake trip. My gut twisted. I'd last seen it at Mom's, in the garage, when Jake was helping me store some stuff. I called the shop, voice steady but thin. The clerk confirmed it. Guy named Jake brought it in, said it was his. I thanked him, hung up, and sat there, the mug burning my palms. He'd pawned it, and my one piece of Grandpa. The man who taught me chords on that fretboard, who sang me lullabies when Mom's yelling kept me up. Right before they'd sailed off, on my dime. Mom must have known. She'd dodged my questions about it back then, said she hadn't seen it. My phone lit up again. Mom. This time I let it go to voicemail, then played it. Her voice trembled. "The police were here, asking about Jake's texts. How could you do this to us? He's a wreck." "No, sorry. No shame. Just blame." Then Jake texted. "You're ruining me, sis. I could lose everything." I didn't reply. Minutes later, Dad said, "Call it off. You're killing your mother." I tossed the phone aside, their words bouncing off me like rain on glass. They weren't pleading for forgiveness. They were begging for control, and I wasn't giving it back. That afternoon, I drove to the bank, filed an affidavit for the boat charge, and froze my accounts. The teller, a woman with kind eyes, asked if I was okay. "Getting there," I said, and meant it. Back home, I dug through old texts. Found one from Jake, pre-trip. "I need cash. Can I borrow something?" I'd said no. He'd taken anyway. The guitar, the boat. It wasn't impulse, it was a pattern, and I'd been too blind to stop it. My phone kept buzzing, Mom's sobbing voicemails, Jake's all-caps rants, but I muted them. Then, a week later, a deposit hit my account. $9,500, no note, from Mom and Dad's joint savings. And guilt money, not an apology. I didn't touch it. Let it sit there, a cold monument to their panic. The fallout wasn't quiet. A cousin texted me later. "Cops showed up at 8:15 a.m. Jake tried to bolt out the back. Idiot." I almost smiled, picturing it. Him scrambling, Mom wringing her hands, Dad red-faced and shouting. The cousin added, "They're saying you're overreacting, but Lisa told everyone about the boat plan. People are pissed at him now." Aunt Lisa's stand had cracked their facade. Good. Jake's mask was off, and they couldn't paint me as the villain anymore. I felt the shift, subtle but real. They weren't sorry, just cornered. For years, I'd been their fallback, the one who bent so they wouldn't break. Now they were scrambling, and I was still standing. I leaned against my kitchen counter, the coffee gone cold, and stared out the window. The street below hummed with life, kids biking, a dog barking. None of it theirs. They'd taken my money, my trust, my memories, and left me with scraps they thought I'd settle for. But I wouldn't. The police, the deposit, Lisa's words. It wasn't justice yet, but it was job power. Mine, for once. I exhaled, long and slow. The coal in my chest cooling to something harder, sharper. They'd learn what it meant to lose me. Not just my wallet. Getting me. And I'd make damn sure they felt it. 3 weeks later, I loaded the last box into my truck and left for a small town in Oregon, 800 miles from their voices. My new place was a weathered rental with a sagging porch and a view of fir trees. Rent was half what I'd paid before. No echoes of guilt trips, no footsteps I mistook for Jake's. I bought a cheap guitar from a thrift shop. Its strings buzzed a little, but it was alive. I played it under a sky stitched with stars. No calls came. Not when winter hit, not when Dad's truck broke down. A neighbor's Facebook post clued me in. Aunt Lisa mailed me $200. My share of the lake house, she wrote. You deserve better. I didn't cash it, just tacked it to the wall. A quiet nod to the one who saw me. Jake dodged jail, but the family whispers turned cold. He'd lost their trust, not just mine. And that was enough. I walked my mutt, Rusty, down gravel lanes now, cooked chili for one, slept without my phone on the nightstand. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was mine. They thought I'd cave, come crawling back to fix their messes. But I was building something new, a life where I wasn't a footnote. Here's what I've learned, carved from the wreckage. Family isn't a debt you're born to pay. It's a bond you choose, earned through respect, not obligation. They saw me as a tool, a bottomless well, and I spent years pouring myself out to prove I mattered. But real love doesn't demand your marrow. It meets you halfway. I don't hate them. I just don't need their shadows to feel whole. That quiet, once a scar, is now my air. You don't have to cling to blood that cuts you. You can let go, heal, and find your own ground. I did. Spring came slowly in Oregon. The mornings were still cold, but the air had softened. Birds nested in the eaves of the porch. Rusty sprawled in patches of sunlight, content in a way I'd never known him to be before. Maybe it was rubbing off on me. I took long walks, started journaling, not about them, about me. What I wanted, what I needed, what I'd given up for their approval, and what I would never give up again. Sometimes I still felt the tug, that old reflex to check in, to offer help, but I let the phone ring, let the guilt pass like weather. One afternoon, I found myself playing Grandpa's favorite song on that buzzing thrift shop guitar. My fingers stumbled, then found their way. I closed my eyes, heard his laugh in my memory, warm and proud. That was the moment I realized I hadn't lost him. I'd just carried him with me. Unlike the rest, he never asked me to disappear so others could shine. He just saw me, and now I was finally learning to see myself. Aunt Lisa called sometimes, just to check in. No strings, no requests. She never asked what I was doing next, just said, "I'm glad you're breathing different these days, lighter," and I was. The air here tasted like peace, the kind you earn, not the kind you beg for. I still had that $1,500 deposit sitting untouched in my account. I thought about sending it back. I thought about spending it. In the end, I donated it to a local women's shelter. Let them build something from my storm. Mom sent a card on my birthday. No mention of Jake, no apology. Just a sentence scribbled like an afterthought. "Hope you're well. Love, Mom." I didn't respond. There wasn't anger left, just space. And I was done filling space with apologies I didn't owe. My story didn't end at that lake house. It started there, with silence, and a slammed door, and a folder full of truths. It started the moment I stopped begging for a seat at a table I built, and walked away from the feast I was never invited to. I didn't burn the bridge. They never built one. I just stopped pretending it existed. So if you're out there, still trying to earn your way into love you already gave freely, this is your sign. You don't need to. You can step away. You can start over. You can leave the lake house behind and find a sky that's yours. Because you are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are not cruel for stopping the bleeding. You are not ungrateful for refusing to be used. You are simply free. And freedom? It's quieter than I thought, but it's holy. Thank you for watching. If Lisa's story moved you, please share your thoughts below. Your voice matters. Your peace matters. And your story isn't over yet.